Where were you when you got the news? When you got that call?
That's a great question. It just so happened that afternoon to evening, me and my son were together, and he was going to do a little tiny homes program. I got him a new bike and air pump and a lock, and we went down to the Salem's Gyro on South US 19, and we had something to eat. He had Philly's cheesesteak. I had some shrimp. And he was talking about girls and all the things, and he had asked me about his future, and he's like, Dad, I'm concerned about my future. I said, man, God has a plan for you. So when I dropped him off to my mother-in-law's place because it was closer to where he was going that morning. Right. And him and I had a saying, two peas in the pod, always is, always was. We've been saying that since he was a little kid. So after I said, hey, man, make sure you say your prayers and everything, he said, Pops, and he threw the sign. I said, two peas in the pot. I said, always is. He said, always was. I said, I see you, son. And I left him, went home, and as soon as I got home, I took my shirt off and the phone rang. And the phone rang, and it was my daughter saying, Dad, you got to go to the hospital. Keith's been shot. I'm like, nah, I just saw him going to the house.
Yeah.
And he said, you need to call Stan, your brother-in-law, my uncle right now. So I called my brother-in-law, and when I called him, I said, man, what's up? And by this time, my hand is shaking. I'm putting on my shirt halfway on, halfway off, and I'm walking out the door to the car. My hand is shaking. I could barely get my hand into the keys into the ignition. And he said, man, Reese, they was shooting over there, and this girl came in, and she said, you need to get over your nephew over there. And and they pumping him and pumping him and pumping him full of bullets. And he said, Reese, I was over there. They took him to the hospital. Get to the hospital right now. And I got to the hospital. And I remember it was another family there, and this was a rough experience, and their son's name was Keith too. So we secretly was praying that it was, in a way, it was their family, it wasn't ours.
Right.
And that's crazy.
Right.
But eventually they left. And when I looked around, I saw all the people that work in the hospital in the room with us. I'm like, well, who's back there working on that kid, whoever he is? And I said, boom, he gone. I looked at my family. I said, I got to be quiet. They don't know yet. So whoever it is, they gone if it's not son or not. But I got to figure. My mind ain't accepting it right now.
Right.
But eventually the detective showed up and came and told my family that he was gone. Came to this room there that's sitting in and said he was gone. The world ended right there.
What was your feeling? What was your feelings when you got that news from the detective?
Number one, I want to see my boy. Let me go see my boy right now. She's like looking around. Everybody's going up. I'm calm. She said, come back here with me. And she took me to a room. But I said, I need to see my boy. She said, no, you don't want to see him like that because they didn't just hit him in the leg and in the back. They hit him in the head. So the doctor said, it was open. And he said, you don't want that memory on you. I said, I need to see my boy. They said, we ain't going to let you back there. But they asked me a few questions, and immediately my mind went on, who could have possibly did it. And where I come from, the thing ain't always who did it, it's who sent them. Well, everybody want to catch the person who did it.
Right.
Ultimately, I want to know who sent them because that's the person I need to go see.
Right.
So all this is going through my mind. I got my man there with me. Now, he came down there with me because that's going to be the first call I make. This my type man since we was in high school.
Yeah.
So he's here with me now. Got out the feds a few years ago. Was facing a double life. He got on at 13 and he came home. And he stayed with me. But now he has a thriving upholstery business right in Pinellas Park. But, that's the first call. So he's with me. And so we take a walk and, we just discuss, what's the next thing to do.
Yeah.
But as you know, you go in and out of disbelief. You go through the phases of grief where is it real?
And you still ain't seen him at this point yet.
No, is it real? Then you're pissed. Then you accepted it. Then you crying and like, wow. And then the whole part is that I have to. I'm the king of the house, so I got to hold this down.
Right.
So I got to be there for the whole family, in-laws and all. So I got to hold my mother. So I can't cry profusely. I might can tap a tear, but I need to be there for them.
Right.
And so I do what I can until we all disperse, which it took a number of hours. But I went right back over there, and I started jumping the police tape from yard to yard. Got as close as I can, and I could see that bike I gave him right there. The first thing it tells me as a father, I put my son in harm's way.
Because if you want to give him the bike, he went to road.
Right.
Because you dropped him off at one location.
And he rode around the
went
corner
somewhere else.
to his friend's house to get a smoke right around the corner.
Yeah.
And the deal was, apparently they had been hunting him and running up on him, and I wasn't made aware of that. And as long as he was in the car and he had his hands, they wasn't sure what he could have or what he could be doing. Mm-hmm. So they was apprehensive. But I think by him being on the bike and his hands being on the bicycle, that made him most vulnerable. And so from what I hear about from the person in the house that I asked, he said he just heard the shots coming up the street. So as he was riding up the street, they were shooting him. And he got to the corner, tried to turn around, and that's where he fell, and they dumped on him right there. So the next day I come back, and a bunch of kids there, and one of them is walking towards me. He's cradling something in his hand.
You went back to the scene?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And he said, here, this is what's left. And it's a leaf with my son's blood on it. And all I could think was, this ain't a fair trade.
Yeah.
This what I get back from my boy. This ain't a fair trade.